increase profit. I will explain what those 5 ways are, but before we go into the 5 ways, I'd like to ask you, what is profit? Now, we've got at least one accountant, we've got a number of other business people in the room, so please, what is profit? Okay, when the audience is unsure, let's turn to the dictionary. And when we find profit in the dictionary, this dictionary at any rate, this is what we see. So for sure, there's a lot of financial definitions, all of the stuff that we've got some top line, got some other stuff, gives us a bottom line that is profit. What I find interesting is this bottom definition. Profit is advantage or benefit. And an example of that, there is no profit in screaming at the referees from the bench. In other words, we gain nothing by screaming at the referee from the bench. Anyone who's done almost anything in the sporting world will understand that, and I'm sure all of you can acknowledge that that is not financial. So, as in my title, I talked about 5 ways of increasing profit, and also how CRM can help you with all 5 of those. The other thing that I'd like to reassure you about is tonight is not a technical presentation. Tonight is a very business-focused presentation. So before we go into the detail, for sure we could use technology to help us in all of these areas of profit. But what we're looking at today is certainly not the detail of the technology. I will give you some examples from one specific technology, specifically Microsoft Dynamics 365, in which I am an expert. But had my career gone in different directions, I could have given those examples in any one of a large number of other technologies. So we've got 5 ways. I'm not going to put you out of your misery just yet. So what are the 5? Well, the first is let's get more leads. Then let's get more conversions from those leads. Then let's get more sales from those converted leads, bigger sales, and more profit. So those are the only 5 ways, and however you want to define profit, whether it's monetary or a non-monetary definition, it will be those 5 ways that are the answer. So more leads, more conversion, more sales, bigger sales, and more profit. Now some of you might be thinking, well, that shortchanged us. We came here for a keynote and she's finished. She's given us the 5 ways. Now, you don't get to go home quite that easily, because I am going to keep the promise that Adrian made. I am going to show you how a CRM solution, and I'll define CRM solution in a moment, but how a CRM solution can help you improve all 5 of those ways. And I am also going to give you a little bit of what I call arithmagility. So, we have a burglar. They're not a very good burglar, obviously. The first point is looking at getting more leads. And if we get more leads, that then increases the fatness of the whole funnel and things are good. So getting more leads. Well, the first thing is to fish where the fish are. That's great. You've probably all heard the saying, fish where the fish are. But where are the fish? And this will be different for every business out there. What we're talking about is looking at your business now, and the fact that you're here and running a business means that you must be getting some leads. My question is, where for you are those leads coming from? So, please, ideas. Facebook?
Social media.
Similar. Please, Karen. Networking, that's why you're here.
Website.
Website.
Referrals from other people.
Referrals.
Signage.
So, for most people, their leads will be coming from some combination or something similar to what we're seeing here. Not all of them, I admit. But I think most of you could say hand on heart that your leads come from a subset or a permutation or something similar to this chart. My next question to you is, first of all, could you, and secondly, could you quickly and simply produce something like that for your business? If I were to ask you, and I'm certainly not going to do it to any of you in a public forum, but if in a one-on-one I asked you where your leads were coming from and the numbers or the proportions, could you answer that question? And secondly, could your CRM generate something like that? You might choose to do a different style of chart for sure. There's lots of different ways that we can produce this data. But could you, at the drop of a hat, answer the question, for example, in the last 3 months, how many of your leads came from the website? Or what number of leads did you get from the website? Or any question of that ilk. And that is one thing that a good CRM solution will answer for you. And it will answer in real time. So if I knocked on your door and said, what proportion of your leads come from the website, it wouldn't be saying, well, last month or last financial year, we got 50% from the website. It would be up to and including, well, given that it's now 6:30, we could say up to and including close of business on Wednesday the 13th of September. We got what number, what percentage from our website, or whatever the numbers are. This slide is really just showing you what Dynamics, the product that I consult in and I have a reasonable depth of expertise in, that is showing you what we see. So we've got the same chart there that we had on the previous slide, and I'm now drilling into the data. The detail of this is not important. It is fictitious, and I don't expect you to be able to read it. What's important is that 1 or 2 clicks, I've gone from a chart giving me a high level to the detail. And if that was really my business, which it's not, or your business, we can now look at things. So using this as an example, and going back to fish where the fish are, what this is telling me for this business is where we should put our effort is into our website. Right now, about a third, somewhere between a third and 40% of the leads of this fictitious business are coming from the website. So if we've got a limited budget, we should put a decent whack of that budget into the website. We will get a better return. In other words, we're fishing where the fish are by sprinkling our fish food onto the website rather than going to trade shows, email marketing, whatever the other values are. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. This is another example, and again, the detail is not what we're here for. But this is another real-time dashboard, again from Dynamics 365, showing me a range of information about the leads and about how my team in this fictitious business are following up and interacting with those leads. So the top middle chart's the one we've seen. Top right is the number of leads that are owned or belong to each member of the team. So we can see that this person, second from the bottom, is doing a better job based on the data than his or her colleagues. And we've got other information as well that I won't go into at the moment. We mentioned earlier that this business is getting most of its leads from the website. Typically, when you're getting leads from a website, you will have something like this. This is called a lead magnet. It is something, in this case it's an ebook that I've written, but it could be almost anything. And while it is free, the cost of it is an email address. So in order to receive that ebook, you need to fill in this information, which includes an email address. That then automatically, in my case, because I've got it working, but it might not be automatic, but certainly some way or other, we want that email address to go back into the CRM so we can do ongoing marketing to it. In some businesses, and I suspect that Ray and Paula are in this bracket and probably some other people, it takes a long time from people first becoming aware of your existence to them actually buying. And by buying in that instance, we're talking about money in the bank. Boeing, as in the makers of aircraft, are on record for saying that their sales cycle is 7 years. Now, I'm sure we can understand why that is without going into any detail. That is very much up at the top end. I doubt whether anyone here is up there. But we can use this sort of ebook and other marketing automation to, with very little effort, keep in touch with people who've wandered onto our website somehow, but right now are not ready to buy. If all the website magic that it takes to have an ebook and a download and a form looks a bit too much for you, this is an alternative version. So this is a checklist, again, something that I've written. But rather than put this one on the website, what I've done with it is a 9-word message. Now, a 9-word message may or may not have 9 words in it. That might sound a bit weird, but it certainly won't have many words in it. So here we have a checklist, and I used that message, and for this I don't need an email address. So I take that message and post it in various ways on social media, or I could use it in SMS, or it could form part of an email. Lots and lots of ways that we can get that message out there. But then anybody that says, yes, I'd like a copy, your next question is, what's your best email to send it to? Bingo, you've got the email. In your CRM, on goes the marketing. And to do a 9-word message, all you need is some checklists are good, but they don't have to be checklists. They certainly don't have to be about CRM. It is about some aspect of your business where you can create something of value that can then be consolidated into a PDF document, a series of slides, a video, anything that the next step is to send it to people so you can legitimately ask, great, what's your best email address? Because that has then been given to you. You can email to that address without spamming. So that's lots of ways that we can get more leads. So now we need to look at more conversions. And conversions are taking that lead from, I've been to your website, I've had a look around, I might have sent you an email, I might have downloaded an ebook, I might have requested a checklist. I've done something. You know, we've maybe thought about having a bit of a dance, but it hasn't gone very far. All the way through to giving some money for something. So that's what we mean by conversion. Taking somebody from a prospect through to a paying customer. And one of the biggest and best ways of boosting your conversion is follow-up. That might sound a bit surprising. And we're going to look at a number of different aspects of follow-up. So first of all, the speed of follow-up. Secondly, and it's reasonably obvious how a CRM solution can help with this, having an automated and consistent follow-up process. Automated is the key word there. Make it easy or even totally hands-off to give those people expressing some interest, comprehensive information. Now, real estate do this fairly well in that there's a number of different websites where you can say, I'm looking at renting a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom property in one of these suburbs, and every day you then get an email. That is probably almost zero effort once it's set up on the part of the staff. But nevertheless, every property that meets people's criteria is being put under the eyeballs of a large number of people who've expressed an interest in that type of property. We've also got easy communication. Again, make it easy for your team members and for the customer to communicate with you, to ask questions. Part of that is having automated templates. So you can send a potentially fairly long, detailed, accurate email with a few clicks. Again, that is something that your CRM will help you with once it's set up. And you can also have a qualification process that is good and robust and strong. That means that your team can invest time talking to those people who are likely to buy rather than the tire kickers. And of course, any decent CRM, and we've already seen a few examples of this, will give you detailed analytics and reporting that is all real time. So you know what is happening in your business, not what happened last month, last quarter, last year, although you can get that as well, so you can learn from it and draw comparisons. But you can see real-time data. What is happening right now in your business? What do you need to do right now to fish where the fish are, move people forward so that you've got a nice barrel just waiting to buy from you? I want to touch briefly on speed of sales follow-up and give you a statistic that might surprise you. So following up within an hour rather than waiting a day, that prospect is 60 times more likely to buy from you. So that is probably worth doing, particularly if you can do it with zero touch. So somebody can come to your website, can fill in a form, can get some information relevant to what they want to purchase, and maybe a series of emails quickly as appropriate. I'm not suggesting we bombard people, and how you do this will vary from industry to industry depending on what is acceptable and so on. But the fact remains, we can do this responding inside an hour relatively easily with a good CRM solution. Remember that anybody who comes to your website and fills in a form or sends an inquiry has probably done something similar to at least one and potentially a dozen or more of your competitors. So if you're the one that gets a relevant piece of information or answers their questions inside an hour or a couple of hours, you are much more likely to get the sale. And you can have a hands-off approach doing the early stage, and then once people are ticking the right boxes, you can have a salesperson come in and look after that prospect at a more personal level. So this is just showing you again that same data, and here we're seeing not only how many leads that the different team members have created or own, but we've also got who has followed up on the leads. So this is the sort of thing that we could take into a team meeting and then start having some serious conversations with people who are not generating many leads and they're not following up on the ones that they are generating. Another thing that CRM can do for us is automatic segmentation prior to follow-up. So what you're seeing here is leads coming in, they're being sorted, and based on how they sort, they get an appropriate combination of SMS, voicemail, email, surveys, MMSs that could include picture files, and so on. So it's not the same response to every person. And then the factors that are deciding whether a lead is segment 1, segment 2 or segment 3 might be demographics, might be personal attributes, could be geography, and so on. What's important is based on whatever's important in your business, the right response is being done, and largely without people being involved. So continuing with the follow-up theme, how many follow-ups does it take to get a sale? Anyone any idea? And again, this will vary from industry to industry, business to business.
7?
That's a pretty good guess. Anyone else want to? You're going 8?
10?
6.
Depending on industry, business, and a few other things, it takes between 8 and 18 touch points to get from you know that somebody exists and has some interest in a product or service that you provide to them being a first-time customer. Now this is actually old data, so I suspect that the number has possibly slipped a little bit. But nevertheless, it is something of that order. So knowing that it takes between 8 and 18 touch points to get from being what I call nose over the parapet to being a paying first-time customer, this may well surprise you. What we're going to see here is the give-up rate of salespeople. So we're going to get a chart. After one no, So we've made contact with the customer, the prospect. Would you like a whatever, a thingammy-what's-it that I sell? After one no, about 45% have given up. They don't go back for the second. After 2 no's, about 70. After 3 no's, it's about 83. 4 no's, 92% of salespeople have given up. And yet, it takes between 8 and 18 follow-ups. Now, they're not quite the same, I do agree that, but it takes between 8 and 18 touch points, and yet 92% of salespeople across the board have given up once they've been told no 4 times. What is very important to remember here, and the automation that our CRM can do for us does help, no rarely means no. What no really means is not at the moment, in a bit, when I've got more time, and a number of other similar things. So if we are giving up so readily, what that means is that the 8% that are putting the effort in and not giving up after the 4 no's, those 8% of salespeople are sharing 20% of the sales. Actually, no, it's the other way around. Those 8% are sharing a fair whack of the sales, and the 92% are sharing the 20% of sales. So you obviously want to be in that smaller group sharing the much bigger lump of sales. I've mentioned several times that we can do this in low touch, no touch, and this is just an example of what's called campaign automation. Again, the detail is not important, but what we're seeing here is somebody is triggering something. Typically, they're downloading a white paper or coming to an event or doing something, and following that, then a series of activities happen. Where we've got the red and the green lines, that is a different activity or series of activities based on, in that instance, whether they do click on a link in the email or not. And again, this takes quite a lot of time to set up front, but once you've got it set up, it is hands off and it just keeps on working, like we saw with that moving slide a couple of slides back. So now I want to look at how do we get more sales from each of those people. A lot of that will come from knowing your customer, being aware of who they are, what they need, what their life's like. Even if you're in a B2B world, knowing bits about their personal life. It is only possible to do that with the sort of numbers that most of us will need to deal with in order to have a healthy funnel if we have a system for recording that information. One of my clients several years ago now used CRM for, amongst other things, he recorded what every client's favourite drink was, as in, do they like a flat white with 2 sugars, a strong cappuccino, herbal tea, whatever. And that meant that when they came, every time they came to a meeting, and he was a financial planner, so he saw his clients quite frequently. He is a financial planner, I should say. He didn't say, would you like a coffee, John? But it's cappuccino and 2 sugars. Again, you couldn't possibly remember that. But use a CRM solution, capture the data, and then refer to it. Remembering, of course, that in many organisations, it's not just you. Maybe you're phoning the client today and you're discovering whatever you're discovering, but maybe the next call will be a colleague. By using CRM in this capturing data and then using data approach, you can then really come across as a team. So regardless of who was in the front office, the client I mentioned a moment ago was able to say cappuccino with 2 sugars, as opposed to, would you like a glass of water? It's a very little thing, but it makes you feel much warmer towards the person who is selling to you. Another aspect of knowing your customer is being aware of who's who in the zoo and knowing that large organisations often take a long time to make a decision. So here we've got the Ovation of the Seas and a number of other boats, ferries and so on the harbour. The ferries can move relatively quickly and can get out of the way of the Ovation of the Seas. Similar in business. Larger businesses have got complex purchasing processes, and being aware of that, capturing the relevant information, using the information in an appropriate way, allows you to move at the speed the prospect wants to move, rather than the speed you want to move. So you are able to be there when the prospect is ready to buy, and they don't feel pressured. Make sense? So, how do we get bigger sales? Amazon and McDonald's are absolutely brilliant at this. I am sure everybody has heard the phrase, even if you've never been into McDonald's, would you like fries with that? That is one way of getting a bigger sale. They've bought the burger, and a proportion will, when prompted, buy the fries, buy the drink, whatever. Amazon, similarly, we've looked for a book, and immediately before we get off this, we're seeing, Other people that bought the 5 ingredients also bought this and products related to this. So although they are not saying, do you want 3 other cookery books? They are really. So what similar to this can you do in your business? So instead of just selling 1 book, you sell 3 sometimes. And finally, more profit. There's really only 2 ways that we can boost the profit of individual sales. One is not discounting. If you work through and think through the maths, a 10% discount can really eat into the profit. So if you sell a product where you're making 30% profit, let's keep this one relatively simple. We're selling a $100 widget and we make $30, 30% profit on that widget. In other words, $70 of the 100 that the customer gives us goes to our upstream supplier. $30 we get to keep. Now that's pretty reasonable. But if we give a 10% discount, we still have to pay $70 to the supplier. So that 10% discount means that our profit is now only $20. If we give a 50% discount, we're making a loss, because we're now getting $50 and we're still giving $70 to our supplier. That's a very simple model, but you get the general idea that discounting is really problematic. Now, we can obviously do incentives, so if somebody says, can you sharpen the pencil? Having some low-cost products and e-books and similar are very good examples of that. You can boost the value without really boosting the cost, so that will help. But a true CRM solution will know about the products or services that you sell, their profit levels, what products each customer has already bought, and therefore where the upsell options are. There's a lot of products, and there are some people in this room that sell this sort of product, that need servicing every 3 months, 6 months, year, 2 years, whatever the number is. There, by having a CRM that knows who's got what, and then phoning them N weeks before a service falls due, means that you are likely to get that sale rather than somebody else. But again, it's all about having the information and using the information. There is no point, you could have the best, the most whiz-bang CRM in the world, but if people don't use the information in it, it's a waste of money. And here's another example of the sort of thing that we could take into a weekly sales meeting. And this is showing various things, including some goals and things that we can therefore get some gamification going. So gamification is introducing a degree of competitiveness between team members but keeping it fun so people want to sell more, sell bigger, and so on. Paula, please.
I had a question just about, what about privacy and CRM systems? Because you know how they've got all those new laws in Europe?
Yes.
About CRM. How does that impact here in Australia, and how would they impact us as small business owners?
Pretty much. Well, all of the things where I've talked about sharing information, I've assumed that it's team members within an organisation.
I mean, but permission-based marketing, like collecting data,
Okay.
having people's information on your database, how long you're allowed to keep it for, you know, are there any implications there?
Not massive in Australia. Australia is behind Europe. The collecting of email via a download form or a 9-word message or anything of that nature, that is fine. People didn't have to give you the email address. So they gave it to you in order to get whatever it was that was behind that. The other thing that you do need to do, and I haven't mentioned it yet, on any of these bulk emails that you may choose to send out as part of marketing automation, is you must have an unsubscribe button or an unsubscribe method. So if people have got the ebook and they think, yeah, that's fine, but I don't want to hear anything more from these people, they can unsubscribe. You must honour unsubscribes.
It's illegal not to, right?
Yes. So if somebody could prove that they had requested to unsubscribe and you continued to send them, you could be in a lot of trouble. But again, CRM can hold the data. Holding data, of certainly not email, is not illegal. What could be illegal is how you use it. There is some data, and it touches on CRM. It's not something that I was going to talk about, but credit card numbers. That is something that you should not keep in a CRM solution. And so if you have almost any, either a credit card machine, a Square device, PayPal, there's lots and lots of payment gateways. All of those are ways that people can put their credit card number in, then the bank does whatever it needs to do, and it comes back with a yes, we'll honour this payment, no, we won't. You don't need to keep the credit card numbers, and you shouldn't. I've had a few clients who insist on keeping credit card numbers. It's interesting. I've had some interesting conversations.
And then what about data security? Because we've been hearing Optus has been in big trouble, and Medibank and all that. As small business owners, of course, we're vulnerable, perhaps even a little more, because they might have had bigger security walls that someone was able to hack through.
We certainly should have good security in place. So good passwords, keeping data in a way that it's not, you don't want it held locally. But in fact, with the majority of modern systems, they will be cloud-based. And where it goes wrong is when people download the data, typically into an Excel spreadsheet, but into some file. That is actually much riskier than having a web-based, cloud-based solution. So for sure, there are risks. You do need to have proper passwords. If you have team members, you need to have password policies. You probably need to have 2FA, two-factor authentication, in place, which is monstrously annoying, but it does at least mean that if a device, a laptop, a phone with files on it are compromised in some way, the probability of someone else getting the data is much reduced. I don't know about the specific examples that you've mentioned, but I do know that the majority of security breaches happen where people don't follow process. So I've been into a number of offices where people have passwords on post-it notes on their screen because they're asked to have complex passwords, they can't remember them, they don't want to forget them, so they do the easy option. So it's things like that, or sharing passwords, sharing accounts. Someone says, oh, I'm off sick today. Can you just go into my system and do this, that and the other? My password is password 1. And then, of course, who knows? So that's another advantage of having proper systems where data can be shared appropriately. So yes, if I'm off sick and I've got things I need to do, I can ask you to do whatever, but you don't need my password. You're not going into my email. You are able, maybe with some technical help, but you can access the notes, you can phone my clients, and at least, again, you can access the information. So I'm terribly sorry, Gill was supposed to call you today about the event next week. Well, Gill's not well, but that's a much better call than some of the alternatives.
So the CRM actually protects you by having
It does.
CRM.
Yeah. It does protect you. You're right.
We were told in real estate that not to hold licenses and things that we don't need anymore.
Yes.
So
Don't hold information that's not relevant
if
anymore. Yeah.
or I can take someone's numbers on their license rather than a copy, which
Of their driver's license. you
Yes.
mean?
yes,
Oh, yeah.
yes.
But-
So things like that, and I notice a lot of people cross out the card number now. You know, if I do take a photograph, I'm very aware that we shouldn't be holding them in our system. When we don't need them anymore, we just need to verify personally
Yes.
and sign off.
Absolutely, so that's a great example. So you look at someone's driving licence or passport, you do
I
whatever,
can put right
you
down
discover
the numbers.
that this person is credit worthy, or that mortgage broker will give them a loan of a big enough number, whatever it is, and then get rid of
And
the...
it should be taken off our phones.
Yes.
because-
Yeah.
Yes, it should. A lot of people don't do it though.
Well, has anyone here heard of ID for me? Scary. So we've recently come across this thing called ID for me, which is being pushed to all
What is it?
real estate agents. It scared the crap out of me. In this room we had a presentation on it. And if you go onto a website called ID for me, and you search anyone's name in this room, you'll have your number, your email, your address, and it's publicly available.
There's
Right.
quite a few.
They offered that to us, and just on principle we said no. Because, for example, our sales manager Jane Collier, when you searched her name, it had her 16-year-old son's name and number.
Oh dear.
Mm.
That
That
is.
scared the crap out of me. And the thing about that is because in our industry it's becoming more agents are using that, data is now a level playing field, which in a way strengthens the valuable relationship. But it's very interesting, and that comes back to what you were saying, what are the actual laws behind that? Well, based on that, from what I was told, I'm not 100% certain about is that it counters out a lot of the do not call register information because your address is now available, and COVID did a lot of that as well, with people submitting a lot of their details online. Lots of people's data is now available online, which actually, through, say, protection laws, makes you legally contactable. I've gotten more spam since 2020 than I ever have. So
Yeah.
But also, I think what you've mentioned there, Ray, is about integrity. When you said this is not the kind of thing we as chambers would want to use, and you know, it might not be the law, but it's also what's the integrity of taking people's data, and to what extent do we use them and yet respect them? You know, you're clearing the data that's not relevant.
Yeah.
The privacy
But a lot of
laws
people
would mean that you would have huge fines if your data was, you know, if someone
Was
got
compromised.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and you didn't, and you were holding it for no reason, you know, you
Yeah,
had it
that's true.
sitting there for years in your file
Well,
because you got
either
the
they're
license.
actually separate offences,
Yeah.
the compromisation and the holding unnecessarily. And if you were guilty of both, you'd be in deep.
And the fines are
But
enormous.
it comes back to the personalisation of what you said, Jill. Like the comment that you made about the financial planner who news times orders. In my opinion, that's the sort of stuff that gets business. If I get 10 new automated emails, I just delete them. That's the reality.
Absolutely.
I send crap out which people just delete. It's the stuff that actually matters to people that connects.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'm proud to say that in 2074 I've sold more houses than anyone else in the last 24 months. From door knocking. Not from just getting people's data and calling them,
Yeah.
from feeling genuine relationships with people. And I think what your CRM is saying is the solution rather, like you can have all the marketing employees in the world, you can have all the frequency, all the touch points, but the actual quality of the content and the relationship and the timing, as you said, when someone has a 6-month service call, getting someone 4 months ahead, I think that's really the stuff that actually is where, as you said, that 8% makes 80% of the income.
Yeah.
That's my
Yeah.
perspective.
I agree with you. Okay, so how many of you think that you could improve at least one of those factors? So more leads, more conversions, more sales, bigger sales, more profit by 10%. Okay, so most of you think you could do one. Anyone brave enough to say that with appropriate tools you could do all 5? Boost it by 10%?
I just go to Ray's desk and open up his computer. I'll increase by 10%.
Okay, so now is where we get to the arithmagility that I promised you. Who knows the answer to that sum? Or who thinks they do?
You don't have an equal sign at the end.
No, there should be, but okay.
I'm going to take a guess and say 50.
50's wrong.
Yeah.
Maybe the ones are actually 70s.
No. If you improved all those factors by 10%, your profit would go up by 61%. And this is the proof. So if we increase leads by 10%, if we had 100, we've now got 110. Increase conversions by 10%, it goes from 30 to 33%. So that means our number of customers with both of those has gone from 30 to 36. Increase the size of purchase, the frequency, the profit, so all of those in the right-hand column are 10% up. But altogether, that has taken the profit on these numbers from 18,000 to nearly 29,000. Hence, that is, you boost all 5 by 10%, and your bottom line profit has gone up by 61%. So just quickly, any questions so far? We've had a
Well, we
reasonable
asked
number
quite a
of
few
questions,
questions,
which is great.
So Jill, with the contact, a new lead within the hour, you're saying that the statistic on that is, what, 60% higher or whatever it was?
60 times higher.
60 times higher, sorry. So with that, is it sort of, if it's automated or a phone call or a text or whatever it is, it's any sort of contact, or is it?
It's any contact overall. I mean, that is the sort of stats that's done across a large number of businesses in different industries. So I have to confess, I haven't read the data behind that in detail, but I am reasonably sure that some of those, probably a large proportion of the initial contact, will be automated. But the point is, it is some. Of course, some of the automated ones may well be waiting 24 hours, depending on how the system that organisation has in place. So all it's saying is that on average, if you are able to make contact within an hour compared to 2 days, your success rate will be 60 times greater than the people waiting 2 days.
It's also good for us, many of us who are small business owners, and I get back very quickly. All my website inquiries, and that's some quite big companies, get back to them within an hour. I say, our exercise physiologists or OT will contact you about those assessments and stuff like that. Just look out for the email.
Absolutely.
So I'll do it quickly rather than automating stuff. I'm negative against all that automation, because you just, I can't stand getting computer calls. I can't stand talking to a computer.
It's how you do it, in fairness, because a lot of you can get highly personalised emails. They don't have to be. I'm certainly not suggesting, dear valued customer, thank you for contacting us, somebody will be in touch soon. Something like that. No, that's pretty much useless. You can do a lot better than that.
But you also know that it's from, because I get a thing that's at the top saying this is from a mailing list, you want to subscribe.
Okay. That's actually different. So mailing lists and newsletters and so on, you wouldn't use a mailing list for this sort of response.
Okay.
Because it needs to be, they've done something, sent an email, downloaded an ebook, and the response is off the back of that.
But I got for the subsequent, 18 contacts that you have, like that's going to be off the mailing list.
Doesn't have to be. And the example I gave you, in fact, it just happens. So it's been automated, so you get this email and that email and then so on.
No.
But it's not off a mailing list as such.
But I'm like you, I think, Ryan, I've got a personalised business. If I don't get on the phone...
That's what about personal interactions and personal service.
Like you, Ray, you're just talking about the personal side.
Yeah.
It's the old-fashioned side. It's not sending an email, it's actually talking to somebody.
And if you can do that, the point is you're still making the response. You're not sitting on it for 2 days.
Yeah.
I actually read a stat the other day. It was the first 5 minutes when you get the lead commit to 20 minutes, and it was like 20 times more successful within 5 minutes than 20 minutes, and it goes 60 minutes and 24 hours. But
well, that's similar to what I've just been talking about. So, by way of summary, what is CRM really? And as you can see, I've really spoken very little about technology. And I've certainly not been going deeply into any one technology. So what CRM really is a solution that helps the people who are helping your customers know what they need to know, when they need to know it, to serve your clients better throughout the lifetime of the association between you and them. So it comes back to managing data and using the data and using an appropriate amount of automation. It's great if you can manage without automating, but if you want to deal with large volumes of people, or you're in the sort of business where you need to deal with large volumes, it would be impossible to manage that without some level of automation.
I was just going to say, for one of my favourite CRMs, actually it lets you create a workflow where you can message yourself to take an action, such as call the person,
Yep.
or send them a card or
Yep.
something.
And that's an example of automation. So again, you're using automation, but the automation isn't obvious to the prospect. But it's still helping you not forget all the various things that need to happen. So that's a great example. Thank you. I put this in because many of you will know stories of CRM projects and so on that have gone wrong. And the fundamental reason that they go wrong is because anybody implementing CRM is really walking a knife edge between the business, the people, the culture of that business, and the technology. Any technology has its limits. Pretty much any technology you select has got some good points, but it's probably also got its negative points. But it's also the vast majority of projects that go wrong actually go wrong because of how the technology was implemented rather than the technology itself. And with that, I'd love you to stay connected. I know I'm connected to several of you already. And if any of you are interested, I am running a masterclass in about a month, Become a Successful CRM Leader. And that's going to be looking at a number of different topics and areas that if you are going to lead a CRM project in an organisation and be successful at it, that you need to be able to cover and understand. So this workshop will show you a lot of things that enable you to stay on that knife edge rather than falling one side or the other. And with that, I will hand back to Adrian.
Jill's given us so much food for thought, and what we can do when we go back to the office and look at the way that we keep in touch with our prospects and clients, because that's really the core of growing the business. So thank you so much, Jill. It was absolutely amazing. But just before we go and finish off what we have, Ray, would you like to come up and just have a little quick chat about things all to do with real estate as our host for this evening?
Thank you.
Oh, and Penny might like to.
Thank you very much, Jill. That was great. Thank you very much, and thank you, Adrian. Firstly, there's a little bit of talk that you may have heard. Our company, Chadwick, is actually merging with Jones, so that's some exciting news that we have to announce. So that's probably going to happen in the next kind of 4 to 12 weeks, where we'll actually be changing. The Chadwick name will be going after 67 years, which is, a bit sad. But so we will be moving into a new phase. But not much is going to be changing for us on the day today. So Penny and I will still be staying here where we are. We'll be having a new sign up the front, and a bit of a new fit up and changeover, and hopefully be getting Brian in for that as well. So that'll be good. But otherwise, in terms of what's happening on the real estate front, I actually had a really interesting meeting with realestate.com.au yesterday, where we've got the numbers back for Ku Ring-gai and what new listing activity is doing. Now, we know that traditionally in spring we do tend to see more listings come onto the market. In August last year, we had 299 new listings come onto the market across Ku Ring-gai, 299 in just 1 month. Now, that is the highest level of listing volume in 1 month we've ever seen seen over the last just over 3 years. So that really tells you a lot about what's happening at the moment. in September you've actually got more Australians coming off fixed rate loans with the big four banks than any other month. So that will definitely lead to that bit of that mortgage cliff that people are talking about. Will it lead to a whole lot of people selling and actually a crash in the market? I don't necessarily think so. I think this mortgage cliff has been reported for quite a while, and a lot of people have actually had the opportunity to prepare for that. So I don't think it's going to be as doom and gloom as some of the media are saying. The funny thing is that Sydney values have actually increased just over 8% since the start of the year. So even though you've had 12 interest rate rises, where the average buyer's borrowing capacity, this is what I find interesting. The average buyer's borrowing capacity is reduced by 40%.
Yeah.
If you had 5 million, you can now borrow 3.2. How can that happen yet prices can go up over 8%? Well, it's linked to an extreme constant, which is supply and demand. So there is an oversupply of buyers and a shortage of appropriate housing. Whilst if you look at the unit market, I was doing talking about CRM management, I was looking at some of my past clients who some of them I realised have let slip through the cracks. And I saw the unit in Aurora Street by Tyra, so I decided, I'm going to go see what he's up to. Turns out he resold it 3 years ago. So I really let that one slip. What interested me though is I sold it to him 5 years ago for 700,000 and he sold it 2 years after for 600. It's a big loss. So units and houses are very different. What we're seeing in units is that there's a complete oversupply. Everywhere you drive across Ku Ring-gai, there are new apartments being built. We're constantly seeing more and more developments. Also, you don't see the same for houses. So, from a law of scarcity perspective, that's where we will continue to see house prices, I think, slowly increase. We're about to go into a really interesting period, though, where we could potentially see 6 months of, not necessarily a dip, but I think a bit of dynamicism in prices. I mean, I've experienced it today at open houses. I had 3 open houses and met 3 buyers. Whilst I had a property 2 Saturdays ago where I met 60 buyers. So some properties are going to sell really well, some are going to be a bit slow. This increase of stock is going to decrease the amount of buyers competing per property because they're going to be spread across more options, and it'll be a very, very interesting spring. But I think come March next year we'll potentially see things go up again. So yeah, that's what's happening in the real estate space. Any questions?
So you sell more than Penny, or?
Yes. Not in my lifetime. Not in my lifetime, but just the last few years. But Penny, did you want to come up and say anything?
Oh,
come on,
no.
Come on.
Well, I have to take Steely's thunder. Yeah, I would say that it is a bit of a rocky time, I would think, in this next months, because we don't really know what's going to happen with all the changes. But when this kind of market happens, the easy properties to sell, or the ones that everyone wants, go really well, and the others get left behind or don't sell or find it very difficult. And that's when you start to notice there's a difference in the market. And people say, oh, but that house sold for so much, and there were 50 buyers there and everyone was fighting for it. Yeah, but that one didn't even sell. Whereas in a hot market, everything sells. The house on the cliff with the 56 stairs and all the difficult ones. So, so we'll see what happens. We'll see.
That'd be awesome. But, we'll still be able to host these lovely meetings for everyone, which will be good. So we look forward to continuing to be able to do that. And Ben, I really found what you said interesting earlier today, just about tax file numbers and relevancy. It's a constantly evolving place in the business world, and what we were talking about before, Paul, just following on what Gill said about security and actual data. I mean, we do CPD every year, and a lot of you are familiar with what CPD is, and what we recently had to study was all about cyber security. It was all about, for example, people, when we sign up agency agreements, when we sign up people's houses to sell and to lease, we have, to get sometimes 5 or 6 different points of identity. What do we do with that information after? A lot of the time we've just been storing it, but so now we actually know that after the point of settlement, we don't need to hold on to those records anymore. So it's actually really, really
got to be deleted out of your files, which is quite a big job.
Yeah.
And because when they're virtual files, you think, oh well, storage, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because if it was a physical file, you'd probably go through your filing cabinets once in a while.
Yeah, yeah.
Rationalise it.
And we actually, I think we had one breach last year where somebody got a fake email from our accounts team regarding trust account information, and it had our branding. It was only like one extra letter in the email address, and it was.
Well, the trust, that's the big
scariest
con,
thing.
isn't it? That someone says, oh, your deposit for that house, please, we've just changed our account number,
Yeah.
go and pay this
So
one instead
it
or
bounced,
something.
can you do it again into this account? And it was caught, but it was scary.
But it's coming from the lawyer to our trust
That's it,
account.
yeah.
Penny actually
So
sent
the
an
lawyers
email
think-
herself to
Yeah, it was from my account. No, but that was where it was intercepted. So the lawyer sent the email to say, release the deposit, this is the bank account details, and that was intercepted and a fraudulent one. So now when we're dealing with people putting money in trust, we ask them to speak to us, so we have a verbal, we've got it in writing and we have a verbal. That's not a bad idea if you can have a verbal before someone deposits big amounts into your account, or any amounts really.
I have a question for Tim, which is with the new basic stuff that's coming up, will that kind of affect your business at all in terms of?
Yeah.
Like this. I can't wait. I've been pushing for 30 years for this.
What's basic stuff?
Basics is all your energy,
Yeah.
basically, hot water systems and not using as much water, double glazing is finally come into the mix. Solar panels, water tanks, all that sort of stuff. That's all the basics.
Oh.
It's all that.
And will housing have to have a rating?
Yeah, well, it already does have a rating.
It's more so for new builds and kind of like any sort of DA extensions you're doing. Like whilst I do Taramara and all of 2074, like I've done traditionally most of my business in North Taramara, about 70% of my business in North Taramara, and over half of North Taramara is in Flame Zone. So I will definitely need your details, because everything, especially the Bow 40 stuff, Flame Zone stuff.
All my products are all about 40.
Okay.
So I don't want to do about 40. So people say, I just want Windows, well, I'm going to give you about 40. So I'm not like Steg Bar that throws the price up like this, that's what I do.
That's cool.
But if you go into Flame Zone, then you've actually got the shutters on the outside. It doesn't matter what I put, you could put a single glaze window there, you must have shutters. So, so with the double glazing, and it's, I can't wait.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah.
Happy days.
Actually, just quickly, when you talk about that, COVID was the best thing that ever happened to my business.
Because of home improvements?
Because everyone was stuck at home, and all of a sudden you're working from your home office and you're in front of the window, and the baking in the sun, or the window, it's windy outside and the windows rattling while they're trying to do their things. Mate, the phones just went off.
It's same for us. I mean, like people living at home either realise how much they don't like their husband and wife and solve the fight, or they realise that they needed a bigger house or let's change locations.
Yeah,
So bring it back.
Alright, thanks very much, Craig.
Thank you very much. There's still some food in that there if you'd like to finish off, but thank you so much for having us.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Oh, can we just get you to do a group photo? Just have a, let's just do a group photo, everyone. Not a group photo, not a group
It's if you're using it, particularly if someone's opted out, either a one-man band and registered ASIC companies, $500,000 and it pierces the corporate buyer. So if you say, no, my company can't pay that, I'll come after your house.